Hello, everyone. This is Generation Now, a talk show where we get to dissect, discuss, and do justice to anything that has to do with education. On today's show, we will be looking at the issue of prostitution among students. Prostitution, an age-long menace frowned at by society, is gradually becoming a way of life, an accepted way of life by students in our higher institutions. And we are looking and also asking the question, amongst other things, what has emboldened this act? And of course, what else is encouraging this act? And as usual, I have with me two wonderful guests who will be discussing this with me, and I will be unveiling them right after this very short break. I am DURU LILLIAN. Please stay with us. Welcome back. And just like I promised, I have two wonderful guests here with me. Welcome.
Thank you, Chinenye.
All right. Right here, I have Mr. Jean Abbey, who is a minister of the gospel, a youth counselor, and a writer. It's good to have you, sir. And I also have Miss Loveline Uhebu, who is a secondary school teacher. Welcome, ma. Nice to have you. Okay, to the business of the day. We're looking at prostitution among students. I'd like to start with you, Mr. Abe. What do you understand by the term prostitution?
Okay, prostitution from, you know, basically the word porne, which is the Greek, the Greek translation for the word prostitution, means, when you pay for sex.
Okay.
You Okay, so it means when you pay for sex, which means, whatever you do, whatever sexual activity that would require an exchange of cash
Okay.
for it to be done.
All right. And Miss Loveling.
Prostitution has to do with the selling of sexual services. Ordinarily, for a layman, you can actually say prostitution is the sale of your body for money or other valuables. Thank you.
Okay. Mr. John, right before we started rolling, we were talking about the origin of prostitution. Now we're ready to hear. How do you think it originated? Has it always been there?
Well, prostitution is an age-long practice, that dates back to ancient Greek.
Okay.
So if we're going to look into it, you're going to talk about, the Grecians, how they conducted their ways and all that. And it wasn't just a practice that was done, out of pleasure, but it was part of the religion, the religious system. So we had gods like Jupiter, we had gods like Athena, and the rest, which were, which had this practice as being, ritual dedicated to them.
I don't understand. How do you mean by sexual practice being dedicated to them?
Okay, well, like I said, most of these religions had their rites and their rituals, you get, which includes sometimes sexual activities done with by a group of people, in dedication to the goddesses or the gods, So basically, that's how it started. But then we have, the people who were worshippers of these gods who believed that sex was not just about pleasure, but was a way of, worshiping their gods.
Okay.
Get. So in due time, it began to become, a practice that was being paid for by the bourgeois, or the aristocrats. For
In
instance,
other words, the elites.
yeah, the
So
elites. So
the
you have
elites.
a couple of people, paying for this, services from certain women or certain guys. It wasn't just about women,
Yes.
it was also guys.
Okay. You said it's not just ladies, right?
Yeah.
Which brings me to this, Miss Loveland. When someone hears the word prostitution, the first thought that comes to mind is the female sex. Why is it so?
Because it's will I say predominant with the ladies. You have guys that are into this, but you don't actually know. They are not out there. you're not seeing them. But the ladies, take for instance, you go around the hotel late in the night, you see the ladies line up. Most times you don't see the guys, but they are actually into this thing. That is why it looks as if it's
Like
just for,
they are coded in a way.
yes, in a way, they have a way they are doing their own thing. That, in fact, you will even have one sitting with you. You don't know that is what he's doing. But when you have a lady into this, she's always either by actions.
How can you tell this apart? How can you tell a prostitute from a regular lady, a female prostitute? How can you tell a female prostitute apart from a regular lady? You said it's I don't know.
Most times, their line of discussion,
Okay.
their movements, for instance, in the school hostels, like we're talking about students.
Yes, of course.
Now, when you get to school hostels, you discover that this set of people, they have their group. Apart from having their group, they have this lifestyle of showing off. They want to show off. They want everybody to know that we've arrived. This is where we are, and things like that. So, and secondly, from the history, when you look at it, I think this issue of prostitution started in the olden days. I think third millennium BC, around in Mesopotamia, right? They had a goddess, sorry, Ishtar. This lady in her own temple, whenever men comes to offer to this lady, she have female ladies that serve in the temple.
What's her name again?
Ishtar.
Is that a priestess or is she
a goddess?
A goddess.
A goddess. She's a goddess of love and war.
Wow. I didn't know that.
She's represented. She has the symbol of Venus. Plato. This one of the Platos, Venus. So her own work is when the guys come, the men comes to offer in the temple. At the end of your offering, a lady follows you to give you the sacredness of her body for what you have actually paid in the temple. So you discover that from that time, it was actually more of the ladies than the men.
Mr. Jean, I'd like to get your view on this. Why is it that when you think of prostitution, the female sex comes to mind instantly?
Okay, predominantly what we have, out in the public is that women are usually the one that's, that are symbols, of when it comes to sex. You get. So basically, you have everybody talking about women as being the symbol of prostitution in that, in that regard. So when you look at it, from time immemorial, it has always been women. In most cultures, they place men as being, symbols of strength, and values, and then women are the ones who are the weaker sex, who are objectified, for sexual pleasure and sexual reasons and all that practices and all that. So even in sacrifices, you hear of people talking about, virgins, female virgins being used for sacrifices. You rarely hear when you say male virgins used for sacrifices. So it's been what, culture had done, and that's why you see they talk about when prostitution is mentioned, you just get to hear more of females. But of course, in this time, we have, being civilized and all that, we get to know that there are other, it's not just for the female gender, it's also about the male gender, because you have male prostitutes. You go to countries like Holland, you get to see a lot of male prostitutes there.
Really?
Yeah.
Like as obvious as the female prostitutes are here in our country.
Yes.
How?
Oh, well, you see, like I said, the world is civilized now. So you have, civilization comes with certain, certain things.
Okay,
so,
we're now with regards to today's topic, we're looking at both sexes, okay, male and female. So with this, I'd like to find out, are there forms of prostitution? Do we have some, I don't know, types of prostitution? Are there some kinds?
Okay, yeah, there are fetishes, there are preferences, there are, there are different kind of, different kind of perversions, and of course, sexual preferences differs from individuals.
Mm-hmm.
For instance, in Africa, certain things like homosexualism is not really out there. You get, but in the Western countries, you have that being out. So, for instance, you go to places like United States. In certain states, you get to see where they have um, gay clubs and all that, where you can pick,
Yeah.
guys,
Guys.
and go home for that. You get offering that's male
Those
prostitutes and
services.
all that,
Yeah.
exactly. So you have female, and all that, and in that they also have different things that are their preferences sexually, and so depending on that, you can categorize the prostitution in that. We have the masochist kind of prostitution.
What's that?
Masochism.
Yes.
That's um is more or less a sort of perversion where infliction of pain brings sexual pleasure. So there are prostitutes for that. Usually, it started mostly from Russia, and then it spread out.
When you talk about that, a movie comes to mind. It's something about 50 Shades of
50 Shades of Grey.
Grey.
Yeah.
That's something.
Yeah,
like
something
that.
like that.
Okay, so you've mention it again.
Masochism.
Masochism.
And then we have bestiality. We have
Bestiality. Please explain.
Okay, bestiality is sleeping with animals and all that. So sometimes the prostitutes are animals, and sometimes the animals are the prostitutes are.
Wait, sometimes the prostitutes are animals. So
the prostitutes
an animal
are actually animals being
offering their services.
So they pay to sleep with animals, or the animal comes to sleep with a prostitute.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. So is that all?
There are many more.
If you can remember as much as you can,
okay.
we're here to
well,
learn.
You see that we have a wide range of preferences, and so you get to see some people, they just come to see people get killed, and they
get off just watching.
Or get hurt or something. So there are different ways people do prostitution in the Western world. Here we just have the normal pay.
The act itself.
Yeah, just get.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. I'm going to read this, and it says, according to UNESCO 2002, there are 2 initiatives for getting into prostitution. One voluntary initiative, the second one involuntary initiative. In other words, willing and unwilling. Voluntary initiative here is as a result of poverty, hunger, economic crisis, etc. While involuntary initiative is cause of coercion, deception from peers and relatives. Now, the question I want to ask is regarding involuntary initiative. Can one be I don't know, get involved in prostitution as a result of peer pressure? Is it possible, Miss Loveland?
Yes, it's possible.
How?
For instance, I'm always with them. We are always together. We talk, we play, we laugh. Each night they move out. You're alone in the house. Most times they come back with gifts, money, and all the rest of them. It's as if why is my word
You're
like
missing
this?
in action.
Am I different from these ones? Is it not the same body? Is it not the same organs? Why is it that me, I am stuck in the house and they are actually going out to get these things? You want to. Most times, those your friends keep telling you, if you don't go with us, you will not eat. You will not get this. You will not get that. Most times, they tend to intimidate you.
I can understand that from the perspective. Okay, like I'm coming from a family that's poor. We can barely fend for ourselves. I'm here in school and I'm struggling, so I can understand being pressured into something like that. But what about someone who hasn't any of this case? How does the person get pressured into doing such, Mr. John?
Okay, it's actually psychological. It's all about psychology, social psychology. For instance, when you have 1 or 2 people doing the same thing and they are intimate with you. I mean, intimate, that means they are close to you, close friends and all that. You could be pressurized to partake in what they're doing, not really because of what they are getting from it, but just for the fun of it, that my friends are doing this stuff, and we're all together in this. For instance, the same reason why people join cults, they don't join cult. Most of them don't join cult because maybe someone bullied them or anything. They just join cult because they think it's cool. You get. Now, it's dangerous to be in cult, but then they don't see the danger because they think if one or two of my friends are there, then it's more or less family. You get.
Yeah.
So one could do that, having the psych that I'm doing this with friends who I'm close to. You get, and so it's family. So whatever they're doing is just between us, and we're doing for the fun. Then if I'm also making money from it, why not? You get.
All right. I didn't let you finish. I'm sorry about that. Would you
Okay.
want to finish off what you were saying?
Most times you discover that these ones from the rich home, they didn't actually join that because their parents are not providing for them.
Mm.
Most of them go into this thing because they want to belong, want to be part of this particular happening group.
It's the end thing.
Yes, it's the reigning thing. Everybody wants to follow this particular group of girls. So let it not just be that I'm just showcasing my father's wealth, nothing else. Let me also, I read a story of a particular young lady that went out for, she's in one of the
Yeah, of course.
the high institutions in Nigeria. She said she's not even doing this because they don't have money, that they have enough. But the one thing is this, when she comes out here, sees this men, sleep with them, she gets satisfied and she goes home. Most times she doesn't take money from them. She
Wow.
feels happy doing it just because every other person is doing it, and she goes home.
Okay, now when you hear the term student prostitute or student prostitution, what could come to mind, Miss Loveland?
Maybe prostitution among the students, not outside now. Maybe a guy paying a lady to sleep with her, or a lady also paying a guy to sleep with him.
Mr. John?
Okay, I would say student prostitution is actually the most prominent of all the, when we categorize based on maybe institution or socially now. Because when you look at it, who would have time? I mean, someone working in a bank or something, has company or something running around, wouldn't want to have much time. So you see, most of the time when you go to bars, you go to chalets, you go to hangouts and all that, you get to see that most of these prostitutes are students actually. Some coming from the village looking for means of surviving and taking care of the school fees and all that. So you see that most of the time it's just students actually prostitutes.
Okay. What are some of the factors that contribute to student prostitution?
Um, well, I think, like you said from the onset, poor background,
Okay.
having come from a poor home, and having the need to become someone, and no help from anywhere, no help from the society, no help from the government, so just get to want to look for a way to, survive. And I had the privilege to interview or maybe talk with a few prostitutes that I've known who are students, while I was still a student. And then you get to ask them, why are you doing this? What do you get from this? I mean, you could actually, and they tell you that, well, they've tried everything and this is the fastest way of making money. They just give what they have and, to get what they want. So it's easier that way. Nobody gets to.
But not everyone is involved in that. I don't know why. And so, in other words, we could say it's just this inordinate desire for quick. I don't know.
Well, I believe, if you would ask me personally why I believe, I would say there's no real excuse for being a prostitute, you get. But then everybody has a psyche, you know, coming from their upbringing and all that. So I believe that, you know, based on one's upbringing, one might see, for some people, they wouldn't have the mind of entrepreneurship, you get. So they would want to go into thinking that this is how they get to survive and all that, based on influence of maybe their parents. Like, go to places like Edo, Delta State. You get to hear the parents say, "You no go do what your friend did do. You no go do what your mates they do. You want they there slow." You understand? So when you hear things like that, and you now go back to school and see actually that this part actually making you see girls your age, or guys your age making big money, riding big cars and all that. You want to join the clique?
All right, we'll take a very short break, and when we return, the discussion continues. Welcome back, and this is the generation now. We're still on the topic prostitution among students. Before we went on that very short break, Miss Loveland, we were looking at some of the reasons, causes for getting involved in prostitution as among students. Can I get your view, please?
Okay, like he mentioned, poverty or coming from a poor background.
Yeah.
That is one. Two, we can actually look at taste for wealth or greed. Most of these people actually go into this not because they don't have money, but because they want more. Like in our society, the rich keep getting rich by the day, not considering what is happening around. Everybody wants my own, my own, my own. So those ladies and these guys, they go into this thing not because they don't have money, not because their parents are not helping out, but because they want to gather more and also show off. We can also look at lack of parental care. From cradle, you discover that most times these wealthy parents don't have time for their children. You discover a child that has been abused at the age of 10, 11. By the time he starts growing, this is something you start and there is a hunger for it. It doesn't just die. She has been abused. Nothing has been done about it. Before you know it.
But then not everyone who gets who experiences that ends up
Yes, not everyone, but some of them end up doing this. Some will tell you, my father pushed me into it. My uncle this. Security man that. Even though it's not everyone, but at least the little that joins this thing from this point, if our parents can watch it, we'll cut it. We are making money. We want to actually amass wealth for these children. What kind of children are you actually gathering this wealth for? Is it the children you gather the wealth for? And in the next 2 years, they throw everything away because they are not, you've not given them what they need. For instance, the Bible we read said, train up a child in the way he should go. When he's old, he won't depart from it. If you give a child the normal, the moral support he or she needs, as he's growing, though in our society now, when we grow, we tend to pick our own ways.
Yeah, of course.
It's a normal thing. I'm from Anglican background. I get older and I decide that I don't want to go to Anglican again.
Anymore.
Okay, it's Cherubim and Seraphim I want to go to. Nobody will actually disturb you. But the truth is, let's lay the real foundation first. When they now come up and decide to deviate, anybody can say, I know the parents. They didn't teach her this.
This, of course. Okay, now taking a cue from what you said, there are instances. There was this joke that was making its round on Facebook some time ago about how some students would come into school with just their clothes, probably a stove, and some books, and by the time they're leaving for holidays, breaks, or as a graduate, they're actually going with lots of things. And then I believe that over time during breaks, some of the students go home to be with family, and then you as a parent, you notice some stuff that ordinarily they shouldn't they wouldn't be able to afford. You don't get to ask questions. There are those who still come back and then they give to their parents. You don't ask questions. How come? You know, I think that's also apart from of what you mentioned.
Yes.
I, for example, I'm going to say this, though it sounds funny, but till I finished school, I never bought a single thing for myself because we were raised that way. Okay, so I believe if parents follow this trend, it could actually help.
Yes.
Or do you think it can't always help? That's a question I'm asking now.
It will always help.
Always.
Yes. Because most times, those ladies you see doing this thing that tell you this is the one or two reasons why they are doing it, they still remember what they learned from the house. They don't forget. I think I had a friend in school. One of the days we were actually talking. She's this go out coming person. You don't actually know her way. So one of the days she said, I remember my mommy said that when you make your waist straight. I was looking at her, I was like, your mommy said. You remember your mommy says you can actually make your waist straight. You go out, you come in. In the night you leave the hostel, you come back when you want to. But your mommy said. You understand? Most times they still remember those things. Just that it's a question of choice.
Choice, of course.
Something that is coming from the inside.
All right. Now, it's believed that the raising, okay, a child is a collective effort from your church, your mosque, your parents, community teachers, the clerics, okay. But then I want to ask this question: at what point do you think there was a bridge? At what point do you think something was lost? Who is to blame for the resultant activities or actions of this individual, in this case now a student prostitute? You've gone through all this. A lot of persons have been involved in teaching you the way, like we usually say, the right thing. So who then do we blame for the things that turns out to be what they do now, which society frowns at, Mr. Jean?
Okay. Um, you know, when you put that into consideration, of course, there's so much to be considered, you know. And probably what I would say is dependent on their nature.
Okay.
Now, this is where I have to bring the gospel into the picture, because then we're talking about what you're saying now is, borders around the spiritual. It's no longer the physical. Because when you're talking about why one would tell someone something and you keep doing the same thing,
Of course.
you understand that it has to do with something that is beyond your control. You get, why do people lie? Why do people cheat? Why do people steal? Why do people, why are people stubborn? Is it because they don't know it's wrong, or is it because they don't have, a a pre-knowledge, of something like that, or have they not been corrected or warned over time, that this thing is actually wrong, or they've not been taught? If you ask people why do they prostitute, why do you do, some of them will just tell you, I just enjoy it. I don't know how to stop. I want to stop. Why do people smoke? I want to stop. I can't smoke. I can't stop smoking. You know why? Because it's not about what you tell them. It's about the choice they make. It's about the fact that can they even make those choices the right way? You get, and what are the influences? What are the things that influences them to make the right choices? So the Bible says there are ways that seem right unto a man, but the end thereof is destruction. And also you find Paul talking in Romans chapter 7, where he said that the things I will to do, I do not do them, but I find that there's a law at work inside of me, causing me to do the things I don't want to do. You get, so there's something that causes them to behave that way. You get, it's not just because they want to. So even if they know the truth, even if you correct them, they'll still do the same thing.
Same thing.
That's why you find so many students, in school. They come from good homes, good parents, but you find them doing something. Why? Because they didn't do the homework of changing their nature. So that is my belief, and I'm going to state it here, which is that one cannot change until they receive the only person that can change their nature, who is Christ.
All right.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Now, we're going to look at it from this angle. With all of this, how do these kids, how do they survive in school, academic wise? How does all of this affect their academics? Is it in a positive or negative way? Some actually tend to come out with first class. How do they do it?
Some of them ordinarily they are brilliant. Some actually that you see go out in the night and come back in the morning may have actually taken time in the day to look at their work. That is that. But greater percentage of them don't do well. Some of them failed their exams, have lots of carryovers, some drop out of school. Some of them actually start engaging in examination malpractice. Fine and good, the lecturers have made it easier for us. If you can't do anything, most of the lecturers will ask you to get your money. That money you're getting from there, bring it, will give you results. So most times you see the ones that have first class distinctions. Most times it's what the lecturers gave them, not what they actually did in school. Now, how you know a person that have actually gone to school but didn't come out with anything, ask them to defend the certificates they are carrying. So that's the point.
All right, sir.
Okay, well, the thing about is it would affect the academics naturally. I mean, why shouldn't it, you know, affect their academics? So even someone who is very brilliant and all that and keeps having, you know, late nights, you know, where you go out to prostitute and then during the day, of course, you sleep
You're sleeping.
and rest. So the amount of input that you should, you know, put into your academics will not be there because you have, you know, divided attention. You get. So um, but what we would also look at is as in how they are able to manage. Like you said, some would come out with first class. Yes, there are people who somehow are good at time management. They can manage their time. You know, it's not prostitution is not necessarily that you might do it during the day. They have you know what you're looking at is like prostitution is something you do maybe going out and standing in the streets. No, some of them have times. You know, they could just go to the hotel and chill there and stay for days. While they are there, they're still studying. You know, and doing their assignments, making calls and doing all that stuff. While they're still chilling with their, you know, chairmen or their boyfriends or whatever, whoever they're prostituting or being paid to. And of course, understand this that these days they don't even call it prostitution per se. They call it relationship. So more or less, what they would normally call maybe, you know, in terms of maybe a guy, an older guy now having a relationship, or let's say a business arrangement with a younger person or a younger lady, saying, okay, I don't want you to do this with any other person. I just want it to be exclusively the both of us, and I will take care of you. So instead of saying I will pay you, so I will take care of you. So you have that most commonly used now. Say, he's my uncle or he's my friend, and he takes care of me and all that. But then, of course, you offer the service for that, and without the service, there won't be any taking care of you.
All right. So, what do you recommend? What do you think are some of the ways these could be coped, if possible? If it can't be totally stopped, is it possible? Can it be totally stopped, Miss Loveland?
It can't be.
Why?
The reason is, let's look at the people that are even involved in this thing. These young ladies and young guys, who do they meet? The people that matters. So if we actually want to stop it, where do we start from?
The people that matter.
From the people. Would they be ready to give up this? That is the issue. How many of them will actually be willing to stick to their wives and their partners and not go out for a business trip and look for a young lady that will massage their body before they go back home? That is the point.
Mr. John.
Okay. I don't believe. I mean, you know, if you're gonna look at it, you know, clearly from the natural point of view, I don't believe that it can stop because there's always a cycle of demand for it from the top to the bottom. You find young guys too, not just the prominent people. You find young boys going to chalets, you know, paying for these things. Some people they lose their virginity, you know, through, you know, going to prostitution houses and all that to get, or whole houses to get, you know, to sleep with women and all that. So you can't. I don't think it can be stopped per se, naturally speaking. But then, if we would look at it scripturally, you know, from the Christian point of view, you know, the Bible says that Paul said in Romans chapter 1 verse 16, he said that I'm not ashamed of the gospel, for it's the power of God to save anyone, you know, as many as they that believe can be saved. So if anyone would receive the gospel, you know, it just doesn't just touch you on the outside, it goes to your core, you know, which is your nature, get to transform you, to change you. So with that, anybody can be changed.
All right. Your advice to the students.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, my advice is for people to begin to look into themselves and see that they have potentials. You know, there's nobody that is empty.
Of course.
You know, there's nobody that is empty. Everybody has potential to become anything they want to be. All you have to do is to discover yourself, look into yourself and look at that one thing that you can do very well and do it. It might be hard, it might be tough, but if you keep at it, if you keep being determined, keep being positive and prayerful, you arrive at that place where you don't have to beg or steal or do anything to make the amount of money you want to make.
Miss Lovely.
Thank you. My advice to the students is, let's think about the future, not just now. We get the money now, we spend it now. What about the future? What do you have to tell your children? What do you have to hand over to these children? God told Abraham, he said, this thing, pass it on. He gave them an instruction and said, pass it on. Now, as a youth, you said, it's my time. I am free to enjoy. I am free to do anything. In the future, what do you have to pass on? Will you be bold enough to tell your child, I was a prostitute and I want you to continue?
There are actually some parents who do that.
I just have one thing to say. I want also to just use this point to just say something about, to the youths. There's nothing, there's nothing that is impossible for you to achieve. There's absolutely nothing. I mean, I have seen people come from rags to riches, all about one, just having vision. When you have a vision, when you have a sense of direction, and when you believe in yourself, there's nothing that is impossible for you to achieve. That's what I know. And it's proven in my own life.
All right, thank you very much. It was so nice to have you here with me, with us in the studio to do justice to this topic. And you've heard it from them, okay? There are so many dangers involved in this, in prostitution. And like we all know, most of the main aim for students actually is finance, and then I don't know, freedom. But then you can always get this some other way other than prostituting your body. Get involved, get into something that could fetch you money, get a skill, learn something, okay? Get a job. We can do this, you can do this. And with that, we draw the curtain on today's episode of Generation Now. You can also join the discussion using the hashtag Generation Now on all of our social media platforms: Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and also don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel. Remember, this is brought to you courtesy Alowere TV. You can also holler me up at DURU LILLIAN on Facebook and also on Instagram. Till I get to see you next time, thank you.